What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPapa, and here we are with our weekly video on the biggest sales on eBay here in the Pokemon space. And I have so much fun pulling this content together for you. I really do. I have fun shooting the video. I have fun looking at all the sales. Like, I always walk away from this feeling really good about the current state of the Pokemon market. There is so much money being spent on some of these amazing cards, and it just lets me know that there's a lot of people out there who are not only really bullish on the future, but are also really excited about the present. I think that in order to spend this kind of money, individuals have to say, hey, listen, these are great investments now. They're going to give me great returns down the road. And it just literally, I walk away and I feel really great about all the money that you and I and everybody else is spending in the Pokemon market, because I think the future is very, very bright. Now, with that being said, hey, listen, I love PSA. PSA usually commands a premium in all of these sales, but guess what? There's only one PSA card on the list this week, and the exciting thing about that is we're going to get to look at some CGC and some Beckett grades, and of course, we're going to compare them to PSA, and it's always interesting to see the price difference between the different graders out there, and I think that we can learn a lot from that, and we can certainly have a lot of lessons that we're going to take away. The other thing that's really exciting is we have some BGS black labels that we're going to look at. Slide number one in just a second, we're going to look at a Grail from the Sword and Shield era in a BGS black label. Then on the very last slide, we're going to look at one from the Sun and Moon era in a BGS black label. We have some really cool complete sets that sold over the last week that are worth noting. I mean, they are absolutely museum worthy if you ask me. And as always, we got some pretty big sealed things that have exchanged hands, and again, we have one of them which is incredibly rare, incredibly high value, and it's really, really fun to talk about. Now, with all of that out of the way, as I said, we do this every week. We are a very data-driven channel. We have all kinds of fun trying to level up our investment and collecting knowledge here. So if you want to be a part of that and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, hit the subscribe button. We have an amazing community. We would love for you to be a part of it. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up, and if you have questions or comments, drop them down below. With that out of the way, let's get into some of these awesome cards, because I'm telling you right now, it has been an incredible week on eBay. And of course, as you probably could guess when I was giving the intro, we are starting off with a Moonbreon Black Label. A Moonbreon Black Label sold last week on eBay. It went for $7,621. It went for over $7,500. It was an auction. There were 37 different bids for it. One thing that was interesting to me is it is a pop 123, and I don't know if that's low. I don't know if that's high. I don't know what I was expecting, but for whatever reason, when I saw 123, that number kind of jumped off the page at me. Now, there have been some other BGS 10 non-black label, the gold label, so the black labels are perfect 10s all the way down, right? Really, really rare, really hard to get at Beckett. Some gold labels have sold as well. It's still a 10, it just doesn't have straight 10s across the board. And the last two sales for those have been $1,326 and $1,500 respectively. And that grade, that population is 629. I thought that was interesting. Now, of course, we're going to have to compare this to the PSA 10 prices. So PSA 10 prices are going for $1,200, and there is 12,000 of them. Actually, there's over 12,500 Moonbreons in a PSA 10 holder floating around out there. So they sell with a ton of velocity. They're exchanging hands a lot on eBay right now, and they're right in the $1,200 range. So pretty interesting to see that those BGS 10 gold labels have a very slight premium versus a PSA 10, and to see this black label go for over $7,500 is just absolutely incredible. What a fantastic sale. Now, on the right-hand side there, another chase card from the Sword and Shield era, right? Except this is the Japanese variant of the Giratina. And when I looked at the overall population of this black label, that is what really surprised me, because we always talk about how high quality the cards are over in Japan versus here in the US. So this black label Giratina right here sold at auction for $5,100, and it is only a population of 36. That's it. There's only 36 of these bad boys out there in the world, so a much smaller population than the Moonbreon there in the English variant, but still, that's an incredible price. $5,100 for this Japanese Giratina from Lost Abyss. Absolutely stunner of a card and an absolutely impressive price. Now, in comparing it to the English version and the PSA, PSA 10s of this card are going anywhere. I've seen them in the $580 range all the way up to the $680 range. They're kind of floating in that $100 kind of funnel right there. So the population there is just over 5,000. And when you actually compare that to a lot of these other Sword and Shield alt art chase cards, having a population of 5,000 is relatively relatively low. Like I said, the Moonbreon's the highest of the high at over 12,500, but we're going to be doing a video where we do a relook at all of those alt arts in the PSA 10 population and how they've moved over the last 6 months, and I just got done putting a bow on that video, and I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of these PSA 10 populations for these Sword and Shield alt arts are in the 7, 8, 9,000 range at this point, so that'll be a fun video. I can't wait to share the information and the data with you. But with that out of the way, these two black labels absolutely crushed. Had to share that with you. Slide number 1. Next one right here, we got a couple CGC Charizard cards. So I thought this Charizard first edition right here that was in a 9.5 CGC, which is a Mint Plus. A 9 is a Mint, a 10 is a Gem Mint, a 9.9 in CGC is a Mint Plus, and it's sold as a buy it now for $24,500. Now you'll see in orange, we had a PSA 9 first edition Charizard that sold 2 weeks ago, and that sold for $27,150. So this 9.5 sold at about, I don't know, a $2,700 discount compared to that PSA 9. And this would be a very interesting conversation to have. I would hope that this would easily cross over to a PSA 9. So maybe if you wanted a PSA 9 and you wanted to pay a little under PSA 9 prices, maybe this PSA 9 or the CGC 9.5 might be a way to save a couple bucks, although I don't know if I would have it in me to crack and resub this. I do, however, every so often buy cards like this, not this high value, but I buy cards that I want if I can find them that look super clean in a CGC or SGC case, and I will crack and sub them after I get a collection of them. I don't actively go after them. Like I say, I'm probably a 1:20 ratio of what I buy in PSA, but maybe I'll do a crack and resub video for you guys sometime here soon. The next thing is this Charizard Holo from Skyridge. Now, about 4 weeks ago, we saw a ton of these hit the market. They sold really, really quickly there. It was fascinating. We saw some 10s, we saw some 9s, we saw a 9.5 from BGS sell. Like, they just absolutely hit the market and hit the market hard. Now, this CGC 10 right here sold as a buy it now for $9,500. Now, when you compare that to the PSA 10 that sold 4 weeks ago, that one sold for $15,000. So, I mean, now we're talking about a significant discount to the PSA 10 price. Again, there is no guarantee that this thing would cross over to a PSA 10. That's a $5,500 upside if it does, though. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, we talked about BGS 9.5s being Gem Mint, BGS Gold, Black Labels, right? All that stuff. Well, a BGS 9.5 in that same week where we talked about all these that hit the market, a BGS 9.5 Gen Mint sold for $9,000. So we have some comparisons here, right? We got the CGC 10 that sold for $9,500. We have a BGS 9.5 that sold for $9,000. Then we have a PSA 10 that sold for $15,000. So lots of excitement here in the Charizard Skyridge Holo set. Like, this thing is absolutely selling like mad. It's been fascinating to see it hit the market. So we'll have to keep an eye on it and see if even more, start coming out of some of these Poke closets and hitting the market on eBay. Next one right here, I had to do this sealed lot I thought was very timely with all the talk about the CT scanning, and again, we'll have to see what, if any, impact it has on the market long run. I will tell you right now, it is not even on my radar. It is what it is, so I'm not freaking out about it, but the cool thing is these Poncho Pikachu boxes, 3 of these sold as a lot together for $16,500. Now, we know those Poncho Pikachus have an extremely high gem rate. Some of them are in the 90% gem rate, so we know that those cards have a huge value. They all go for thousands of dollars, so buying 3 sealed boxes in one lot for $16,500 was an absolutely amazing sale on eBay. And then the Neo Genesis first edition booster box down there sold as a buy it now for $24,000. That is an incredible price point. That is an incredible piece of Pokemon history, and I thought that was absolutely worthy of being called out on this video. Just, I can't even imagine. Like, even if I saw that, even if I was able to put my hands on it, I would just be in awe of thinking about the history behind it and what a cool, rare piece of the Pokemon collecting space that is. So again, $24,000 for that box is a really great price. Next ones we're looking at right here, the one and only PSA card that's on this list, and of course it's a Japanese one, okay? So we got the Lugia Holo here from 2002 Wind from the Sea set, and this was a PSA 10, and now it did go to auction and it sold for $5,000. $12,700. There was 44 bids on it, population of less than 100. There's only 87 of these in PSA 10 holders out there, so that goes to show you why that price was so incredibly high. Lots of demand, low supply, just a stunner of a card. All of these e-reader cards, right? We saw the Charizard one earlier. We see this one here now. Like, all of these e-reader cards are just absolutely stunning, and for whatever reason, I think they hold a very special place in a lot of collectors' hearts. They're just unique, they're cool, and so we see those always go for a much higher premium. Then on the right, we got the Rayquaza, the Deoxys, excuse me, Gold Star in a BGS 8, and I thought this was a cool one to include on the list because 2 weeks ago we saw a PSA 9 sell, so we've seen an 8 now and a PSA 9. That BGS 8 was at an auction, 34 total bids, and it sold for $4,650, right up just shy of that $5,000 mark, $4,650. Now, when you compare it to a PSA 9, again, you can't really compare it. Different grading companies, totally different grade altogether, but I thought it was worthy of inclusion that PSA 9 is a buy it now, sold for $7,800, okay? There's only a pop of 226 in this card in a PSA 9, and there's only 48 PSA 10s out there, and one of the things that I always talk about is when you're looking at some of these older cards, when the PSA 10 population is so incredibly low, mere mortals, mere normal human beings like you and me and most people out there, a PSA 9 might be the highest you can ever obtain for your personal collection. There's nothing wrong with that. There are some cards that I want where I'm like, hey, 9 is the ceiling, and that's okay. So I think that also helps drive up the PSA 9 prices as well. So really cool to see these two. Again, just awesome pieces of Pokemon collecting history here. Sell for really strong prices. And then, of course, I had to talk about these two complete sets that sold. Again, as far as I'm concerned, these are absolutely museum worthy. Hats off to the people who completed all of them, and then also hats off to the people who were able to obtain these and buy them. I think that they are fantastic pieces to add to any collection. So we had a PSA 10, complete PSA 10 151 Master Ball set that sold as a buy it now for $7,000. Now, last week's video, we had a ungraded 151 Master Ball set. It came with the art rares, the special art rares, the promo cards, came with all of that, and that sold for $6,000. Now, I'm telling you, if it was me, if I had to choose between the ungraded for $6,000, even with all the extra cards, or the PSA 10 set for $7,000, I would take the PSA 10 set for $7,000 all day long. I think this was a fantastic pickup by whoever it did. I think in the long run, those Master Balls, even though the Japanese 151 set has been printed into absolute oblivion, I do think the Master Balls have a very special place in hobby. Can't get them in English, so I think they're going to age well over time. The other set that I thought was really cool that sold was a complete 1999 base set first edition, graded by CGC from start to finish. And yes, it's low grades. I mean, if you look at the Charizard right there, it doesn't even have a grade. It is an authentic altered card, which means somebody probably tried to trim it or color it or whatever foolish thing they did. However, the card is authentic. It is not a fake card. It's a real card. They just wouldn't assign a grade to it. And then again, you look at some of these other holos, you got the Alakazam at a 4, you got the Blastoise at a 5, but it doesn't matter. They've completed the whole set. It's all graded by CGC. It's still an amazing piece of history to have in somebody's collection, and it sold for $9,500. I think that is a very strong price considering it's graded by CGC, considering that it's a lot of low grades. I thought this was really cool, and I thought it was really exciting. And again, I just think it goes to show, you know, that there's a lot of interest in a bunch of different spaces here in the Pokemon market. The final two cards right here, two of the coolest cards, but also two of the very worst pictures that I found on eBay when I was looking at some of these high dollar sales. If you are going to sell high dollar cards, please make sure that you put great pictures on there. Because I was like, man, these cards just don't do justice. Well, the pictures don't do justice to the awesomeness of the card. So here we have a Neo Genesis first edition Lugia Holo. Like, what an incredible card right here. In a BGS 9.5, and it does have a 10 subgrade in the corners. I had to call that out because I thought that was really, really cool, and it sold for $7,500 as a buy it now. Okay, now this has a population of 105. Now the PSA 10 population for this is only 44, and the last PSA 10 that I could find of this Lugia card sold in September of 2021. So we're talking almost 3 years ago at this point, and it sold for $48,000. Now remember, the market was going absolutely stupid in September of 2021, so it might not sell for the same price, but I will tell you this, that is a very strong comp if anybody was able to crack this sub it and get a PSA 10 out of it. I really like that corner subgrade of 10 right there. Centering looks pretty solid. Like if I don't know, if you were to crack and sub one, this might be the one to crack and resub. The other thing I really liked was this Charizard from Hidden Fates in a BGS 10 black label. We all know how hard the centering was on this. This was an incredibly stunner of a card. Centering was an absolute nightmare, really in a lot of the Sun and Moon sets because of the very thin border going all the way around. But this one sold at auction for almost $5,000 at $4,930. There was 45 bids on it. I was shocked that there is a population of 201 black labels for this. That is a very, very high black label population for a card that suffered from such centering issues as I was just talking about. Now, however, when you look at the PSA 10 population, the PSA 10 pop is 6,737. So maybe I'm totally misaligned with the centering issue because PSA, they really value the eye appeal of the card. I think that's one of the biggest things PSA looks for, at least when I'm submitting cards. I make sure the front is beautiful, the centering is on point. So hey, listen, PSA 10 population of 6,737, a really high population, and those go for about $650. So you're looking at a very high multiple from a PSA 10 to a BGS black label. So listen, I love pulling this video together. I can't wait to do it again next week. If you made it to the end, if you learned a little something, if you found this valuable and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. I appreciate you more than I can say. I hope you have an epic one, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.